Hi folks, meteorologist Michael Wilhite here with Southern Indiana Weather. I want to bring you a quick forecast update here. There is a chance of severe weather tomorrow, and again, it's not a major risk for Southern Indiana, but nonetheless the risk is there. You can see the risk a little bit stronger to the north as we just sort of take a look at the probabilities. The hatched area indicates where they believe the Storm Prediction Center believes the worst of it is going to happen. I'm not convinced that isn't just a little bit too far north still with some of the data that I'm seeing, but we zoom in a little bit closer to it, a moderate risk here around the far northern sections enhanced all the way down as far as Indianapolis here, and then what you see is a slight risk extending here all the way as far as Vincennes down to Jasper and down to the edge of Perry and Crawford County here. So most of us in southern Indiana under a slight risk for severe weather tomorrow, marginal risk here for the far southwest corner of the state. Now I would not be surprised at all to see that changed in the outlooks based upon the data. So here's what we've got going on. We're looking at winds now here in the upper levels of the atmosphere, and so by the time you come into tomorrow afternoon, what you got is a low level jet with winds that are just cranking in here. And by the time the storms are starting to develop in the heat of the day tomorrow afternoon, you're talking low level winds here, about 40 knots or so. But as we get into the night, the nocturnal jet kicks in, and that's going to just continue to provide ample fuel for these storms. These storms are going to last well into the night. They're not going to die off after sunset like we often see around here. These are going to be a big overnight threat for someone wherever they develop. We're talking winds here 4,000 feet above the surface, 50, 56 knots. That's that's a pretty strong wind. That's 60 plus miles per hour, and it doesn't take a very strong thunderstorm to be able to tap into those winds and possibly mix it down to the surface. So there's a real threat for some winds, and it only gets stronger as you go higher up into the atmosphere. What you see is here you've got 40,000 feet up into the atmosphere, very strong winds as well at that same time. So the question is, where exactly will these storms initiate at this point? I think anything that initiates up here in this sector of the strong wind is going to have the fuel to go severe quickly. The instability parameters very strong, especially tomorrow afternoon. We're talking almost 5,000 joules per kilogram here of CAPE. That's convective available potential energy. That's measure of instability in the atmosphere. That's ample. And the problem is, as we go through this, as I put this in to motion here, let's go well into the overnight hours, and as you see, even well into the overnight hours. What you have typically during the overnight hours is that your instability will decrease overnight, and but still, here we are even by 2 a.m. and we're talking 2,000 plus units of CAPE here in southern Indiana. But watch this area up here, right around the cold front, has a massive amount of instability, and it actually increases as it moves through. So there is a gain in instability, and again, that's also due to that nocturnal jet kicking in. The overnight jet kicks in and just screams things. So problem is that we're going to have some thunderstorms develop somewhere, and they're not going to die down after sunset, and it's going to be a major overnight event for someone, primarily a wind threat, as after these storms initially have a tornado threat with them wherever they develop, but looks like it's going to be up toward north. I think it's best probably to show you this on future radar. I think with a grain of salt, future radar has been performing pathetically. Just to give you an idea of how pathetic it was performing, earlier today you saw on radar some very nice rains over in this area, Missouri, much needed, but the future radar had absolutely nothing out there, just utterly missed it. It was pathetic. But as we put this into motion, here we got some rain that develops overnight tonight, and by the time you start your commute tomorrow morning, you get a wet drive. Maybe not so much here for southwest Indiana according to the rain, but again, keep this with a grain of salt, because we know future radar hasn't been performing well. All of us will have a chance of rain tomorrow. We'll just have to see where it ends up going. That comes out of our way though, and then later in the afternoon what we've got is some strong storms starting to develop up here in Illinois, and exactly where these storms develop is going to key to where they track. So if they start to develop up here as the NAM is showing on this, well then yeah, you're going to start to see them track like this, and most of us here in in southern Indiana here are going to miss out on it. But what happens if we do get more development up in here than what we do up in here? Again, that could put much more of southern Indiana at risk, so we're just going to have to see. Right now there's a few that develop up here, but what you see as you put this into motion is by far and large it starts more of an east-southeast jog here as you go into the overnight hours, but there it comes, and you've got a pretty strong squall line going here even well into the night. This would be say about midnight or so, and then here's 1 in the morning, finally here's 2 in the morning. Radar does want to weaken them just a little bit on the structure. structure here. Again, is that going to be right, or will they weaken to that point? I'm not convinced yet. This could be a setup where future radar is completely wrong on this and misses the strength of these storms once again. So, and it actually moves them down into our area, as you see late, but then sort of dissipates them. That is something I'm not overly convinced about yet. One, they may not come into our area. They may continue to go this way. The other thing is, two, they may not dissipate. This may be an ongoing, could be the derecho word, the D, the dreaded D word has been thrown out there, and that's certainly a real possibility with this. But again, it just kind of is the key to where everything forms. If they form up in here, they're going to take a southeast jog as they get stronger and develop a cold pool out in front of them, and that's probably going to put areas here south of Chicago, all the way down to Indianapolis and Cincinnati, and points like this at the strongest risk for these storms, as they'll probably develop over here and expand out into here. And what you're going to see is them move that way. But if we, instead of just these, if we end up having some more development out here, we may see some storms push our way too. So there's still lots of questions at this point. It's just something that we're going to have to see what happens tomorrow evening as to whether there's a real threat or not. But certainly we've got the instability there. Certainly we've got the wind energy. If we can get any storms to fire tomorrow afternoon, they could go fairly strong around here. So it's something that we are just going to have to keep a watch on. Everybody tomorrow around the area under the risk for some severe weather, we'll just have to keep an eye on it. That's about the best that we can do. But hey, I'll be in early tomorrow morning up at it, bringing you an update, and I'll have updates throughout the day and throughout the evening as well as possible. And of course, if storms do threaten us during the overnight hours, I'll stay up and cover them to the very best of my ability, folks. So just keep it tuned right here to Southern Indiana weather, and we will keep you the safest we possibly can. Just have your severe weather plan in place. Active weather shapes up on Wednesday, folks. And we'll get through it. Again, tomorrow we will see probably a better idea of where this is coming. So look for another update out tomorrow. That's it for this update, folks. Thanks for watching.